Hello, and welcome back to Decoding the Flow. I am your host, Drica Lobo. I'm so excited to today's topic. We are going to dive deep into creation modes. What if I told you that if you wanted to go to where you want to go faster, you actually need to hit the brake? For so many years of my life, I truly believed that transformation requires some sort of crisis. So much so that when a crisis arrived, I would even celebrate because I knew the breakthrough would be right around the corner. That may sound like poetic or artistic, but it's not really good on a soul level or even for your nervous system. And I'm telling you because on the past 4 weeks, I retreat from my regular life and self-created this artist in residency. So I would be able to write my book in a completely new environment. And what is happening is this new environment that I am at for the past 4 weeks. It is a calm, subtle, very different from what I used to. And that's the whole deal. And what I've discovered, it is that when you give your mind a space sometimes to do nothing, that's when your biggest breakthrough can actually happen. And I'm telling you, based on my experience, only from this past 4 weeks that I've been here, I started getting locked into exactly what I planned to do because I was quiet enough to listen and contemplate this silence. And then it made me thinking that why do we miss the breakthrough? And I come up with like different ideas and take it what resonates. The first one is the illusion of speed. We mistake motion for progress. We go from task to task, but we're simply running on the same treadmill. And that was my life before I actually came in. I was going from task to task, doing to doing, and on the end of the month, I was on the same speed, on the same treadmill, but overworked and exhausted. The second one is the science of overloads. The science of overload, it really hits home because when our brain is constantly processing high speed information, it shifts into survival modes and it relies on habits and shortcuts. That's when we can notice that we are not really creating, we are only reacting to life. And hello, this podcast is all about how you can move from reaction to creation. And then one of the most important steps, it is to regulate your nervous system, meaning we cannot be in survival modes because survival modes doesn't create, it only reacts. And every single reaction, it happens based in your past, not in your future. What I came to understand over my past weeks being here, the breakthrough only happens when you have a clarity of mind, when we slow down our pace, when we leave space for contemplation. Seriously, what was the last time that you allow yourself to contemplate? When you are in survival mode, you don't feel safe within yourself. Your stress hormones are super heightened. Safety creates a space for creativity. When you are in reaction mode, meaning survival mode, you have no space for creation. You are literally reacting, meaning surviving. So there's no space for creativity there. Your best work will never come when you are in survival mode. Period. It took me so many years to understand that. And if I could, one piece of advice to my younger self, that would be it. Learn about regulating your nervous system. You don't need to become a neuroscience to understand how you can regulate your nervous system. I'm not even joking. The very first time in my life that I am actually able to slow down. Yes, I've been on vacations. I've done artist in residencies before, but I never truly allow myself to slow down. When I really was able to lock in to write my book, I told myself, you are going to cancel every single meeting that you have because you need to leave space for spaciousness. And it was the most magnificent decision that I could ever make. So the only thing that I do on my day, those days, I walk the dog, Watson. If you want to know about Watson, you have to read my blog. He's this beautiful Labrador, and we go on walks every single morning, and I've been learning so much from him. You have no idea. And the only way that I am able to learn from a Labrador and to synthesize those lessons, it is because I don't have a million other things going on in my mind. The only thing that I have going on in my mind is the dog that needs to be fed and to receive love, and also to write my book, period. So leaving time for a spaciousness, it's been one of the most beautiful gifts that I recommended for you. Yes, you may say, yeah, Drica, but I have a job and I have 3 kids and I have this and I have that. Yes, but how can you use your life and give even 20 minutes just for yourself? I'm not talking about meditation. I'm talking about sitting down and just looking for nothing. I'm gonna give myself an example. I walk the dog in the morning and then I'll write my book for 4 hours. No distraction. I've been putting my cell phone inside a box. I forced myself not to go over 4 hours. I believe there was only one time that I worked for 5 hours, but I do this on purpose because I do not want to overwork. I made a schedule for me for the time that I'm going to be here to work on 2 chapters every day. So that gives me 3-4 hours a day to work on a book. And after that, I'll go and walk the dog again, and then I will do my home workouts because I love working out, and I'll eat something. And then towards the evening, I sit down outside and I stare at the trees. I stare at the trees and I just contemplate the trees against the wind and all of the birds singing. I've never done this before. I mean, maybe if you're on vacation, we will give 5 minutes to do it, but I've never gave myself another period of entire evening just to sit down and do nothing. And that, my friend, gave me one of the biggest breakthroughs of my life, and also made me realize that being busy is actually a way of us to escape ourselves. Sometimes we make ourselves busy so we don't have to deal what is going on underneath what we think we are supposed to do. It takes courage to do nothing for a few hours a day. It really does. It really does require you to be okay with your own thoughts. Also, not judge yourself while you're having those thoughts. And then another thing that I realized, and I myself included, most of us are in survival mode without even noticing that we are in survival mode. And what happens in survival mode, we get very comfortable with the uncomfortable. We accept situations in our lives as normal, but it's not normal. Not having time to contemplate the tree, I don't think it's normal. Not after spending 4 weeks within myself contemplating the trees. And I'm telling you based on my own experience, and I'm not the first one to affirm that. And when I used to see a title, You have to stop doing what you're doing to be more productive. I would laugh at them, thinking of myself, how can I stop working and be more productive? Well, now I know. Now I understand, and I'm telling you, if you wanted to go faster, you have to slow down and give yourself permission. And the knowing that is slowing down, it is also one of the best strategies that you can have, not only in your personal life, but in your professional life. I'm talking about slowing down, taking 24-hour sabbatical, if that's the case, taking 2 weeks completely day off and not looking into your phone, not engaging in social media, not engaging in other people's conversations or interests. I do not want to engage with the outside world, because this time for me now, it is to work on my book and to give the best and the truest version of myself while writing the second edition of my book. You are listening to Decoding the Flow with me, Drica Lobo. If this conversation is inspiring you, take a moment to follow the show and share it with someone who is ready to live more creatively. You can find more inspiration, art, and behind-the-scenes stories at dricalobo.com or my Instagram at dricaloboart. Now, let's take a deep breath and get back to the flow. I do have a few practices that I would love to share with you. There are practical reflection exercises that you can start doing today. So one of them is to write in your notebook, if nothing was wrong, write that down. And if you want, you can write an answer in the comments. If nothing was wrong today, what would you create? Do you have this feeling sometimes when you wake up and you wake up thinking about your problems or thinking about the things that you need to do, but not in the most exciting way? This is not an ideal life for us who wants to create life and not react to life. I believe in one of the best rules that we can follow. It's wake up excited. What makes you excited when you wake up in the morning? Do you check your phone right away? Or do you check your emails? I'm telling about checking emails because it used to be one of the very first things. Like, I'm literally putting the power into other people's agenda instead of my own agenda. So now I don't check my email from noon to 4, and it's been very liberating. So I recommend that you do that. Second, where am I manufacturing a necessary emergency? You know those type of people, and I was one of them for a long time, that everything is an emergency. Everything needs to be done right away, and if not, the world is gonna end. Are you this type of person? All you have to do is just evaluate what is truly an emergency. And even most importantly, why would only choose to do something when that thing becomes an emergency, right? We wanted to deal with things before they become an emergency. I want you to finish this sentence and write it down in the comments. If my life become peaceful, what am I afraid of? It's going to happen. We've been talking about this whole episode. If we don't realize that what is happening to us, it becomes our identity. So when we slow down, we think that something's wrong with us or that something bad is about to happen. Does that ever happen to you? Well, it happened to me at the very first 2 weeks. And because I was able to unplug, it doesn't mean that I don't care about the other parts of my job or the other people that I love. It just means that I gave myself permission to just be without rushing, without needing to be anywhere, without even needing to finish the manuscript of my book. Just like the Labrador dog that I was telling you, one of the lessons. And for you who loves dogs, you're probably gonna roll your eyes, but taking care of a dog, it is big news to me. I didn't know they experience the world through their smell. For me, they were like smelling pee, and then I started getting very uncomfortable because they get really into it. A bush and then another bush, and then all of a sudden you're not even walking. All you do is just waiting for them to smell the bush. Instead of getting furious with the dog or frustrated, I got very curious and I got to learn that that's how they experience the world. It's almost like every bush they smell, they are trying to research something about everything else that is happening on their neighborhood. You see, if I had anything going on in my mind on that time, I would probably not get curious. I would probably get furious with the dog that was not following the speed that I wanted him to follow. You know what I mean? And that's what the dog taught me. He is not in a hurry. He is just living in the moment. And that's exactly the point. The thing that we are doing right now, that's the point. That's the highlight. That's the most important thing that we have to do right now. You know, think about your last interactions that you have with your friends. Were you looking in your phone? Were you thinking of something else that you could barely understand? Unfortunately, these are normalized things that we can see in our day-to-day basis. And it is one of the major things that is blocking our best faculty, which is our creative minds. So I'm here to tell you, slow down, be present, take time to stare at the trees, because your best and biggest creative breakthrough will happen in your space where you can contemplate, the space that you don't need to fulfill with ideas or thoughts or plans or discussion or inner conversations. Try staring at the trees against the wind. That's one of my favorite things to do. So maybe your next chapter, it is not asking you to do more. Maybe it's just asking you to slow down enough to perceive the greatness that already exists. Maybe it's asking you to trust calm enough to build something extraordinary from the inside out. All right, my friend. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I would love for you to leave your biggest takeaway and then to evaluate how you can slow down, push the brakes, and enjoy the moment. Allow yourself to do nothing. Be comfortable of being uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable when I first got here. I had too much time and I forced myself not to do too many things. But towards the end of this experience, I'm telling you, your biggest breakthroughs are going to happen at your next moment of stillness. All right, I'm your host, Drica Lobo. Don't forget to follow this podcast. This is one of the best and free ways that you can support this project, and I can't wait to hear from you in the comments. Bye.